Take a look.
I'm making a request for a separate line item for the Ciders case. I'm asking for $20,000. If we don't spend it, it'll go right back to you guys. But I'm going to have overtime and things that I'm going to have to. A case of this magnitude is not an easy thing to do, and I can't ask Anika's staff to do our work. And the AG's office is providing some assistance. They've got their own caseloads as well. And just so you know, this is not just about the criminal case. There's also the children's services case, which we will be asking for permanent custody of all 16 kids. So we've got that case. Our related cases that started all of this that's going to be involved as well. And then we may do something about the house and the people who are trespassing.
Grantee and LLC registered to a P.O. Box in Galblis, consideration $1. Recording dated February 2, 2022. That single line from the Gallia County Recorder's online index sat unremarked upon for over a year. Just another quiet transfer in a county where land moves slowly. But when you cross-reference that parcel with the timeline of what investigators now call the Ohio House of Horrors, the date screams. The property changed hands 4 days before a search warrant was executed on Omar Street, and 26 days after a Child Protective Services inquiry was opened, then abruptly closed, 50 miles south. Picture the key to that property, not a key you'd find on a kitchen hook, but a single brass key sitting in a manila envelope inside a locked drawer of a rental office that no longer exists. The office was shuttered 6 months after the transfer. The building sold to a salvage company. But the utility records for that parcel tell a different story. Power usage never flatlined. Water kept running, 10 gallons a day, then 20, then 5, always at night. Someone was there. Someone was always there. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Crime Files 91 Lynn, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. This newly identified property sits at the end of a gravel lane off Poplar Church Road in Bidwell, Ohio, a location already documented in birth records as a previous address for the family at the center of this case.
But first, let's talk about the houses where the Ciders lived before they made the move from Gallia County to Vinton County in 2021. From the records we've gathered, it appears the Ciders moved from Gallia to Vinton in 2020 or 2021. Birth records show that Gary and Elizabeth Ciders lived at 5 different addresses beginning in 2015 when the first child was born. The last known address for Gary, Elizabeth, and their children was in Cheshire. The house sits on Honeysuckle Drive. A neighbor who did not want to appear on camera told us he remembers the family. He said he thought there were 9 children.
What no one flagged until last week is that a second structure on the same parcel, a Cinder-Block outbuilding originally listed as an agricultural shed, was quietly converted. County building permits show no application for residential use, no electrical inspection, no certificate of occupancy. Yet a thermal imaging survey conducted by the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation in July, released in a heavily redacted supplemental report, identified a concentrated heat signature consistent with a living space and what the affidavit describes as materials inconsistent with agricultural storage. That phrase, dry as a bone, translates to a child's mattress, a portable toilet, and a stack of elementary-level workbooks with no school district stamp. The irony is not subtle. The Gallia County Children's Services caseworker who visited the family's main residence in November 2021 noted in her closing summary that all minors appeared to be present and accounted for. She counted 12 children that day. Birth records showed 14. The gap did not trigger a follow-up. The case was marked resolved and the file archived.
You know, we had been told very early on that Children's Services in Gallia County had some type of contact with the family. We didn't know the exact nature of it, but then I was able to kind of verify that. So I've got that from at least 2 sources that Gallia County CPS had kind of had some type of contact with this family, and then boom, they take off. That in and of itself is pretty concerning because they moved just 1 county north.
Well, I don't know how the county children's services agencies communicate with each other, but you mentioned 4 different moves. If there's one visit from a children's services agency and things are bad and they're bad, I can see why the family thinks, you know what, we got to get out of town. We got to move on to someplace else. And maybe that's the reason why they kept moving around, because they knew that Children's Services Agency is going to come back.
The Cinder-Block outbuilding sat 200 yards from the main house, its only window painted black, its door hidden by a tarp the color of the surrounding dead grass. Nobody asked. Nobody answered. The discovery of this outbuilding reshapes the entire timeline of what authorities knew and when they knew it. County Commissioner meeting minutes from February 2022 reveal that the same prosecutor now seeking permanent custody of 16 children stood before the board and requested a supplementary appropriation to digitize decades of property assessment records, a project he called overdue for public safety reasons. The minutes record no discussion of the Ciders family, no mention of an ongoing CPS file, no hint that a newly deeded parcel might be connected to a household already on the radar. The appropriation passed unanimously, but the digitization wasn't completed until the following fiscal year, 8 months after the children were removed. So the record sat on paper in a basement storage room, and the Cinder-Block building sat at the end of a gravel lane. And the gap between what was officially known and what was officially acted upon widened by the day. That gap is where this story lives. What if the same pattern is unfolding right now in a county next door, where a child hasn't been seen in weeks, and a paper file waits its turn to be scanned? Parallel narratives never announce themselves. They emerge from the same soil. In this case, that soil is the jurisdictional border between Gallia and Vinton counties. 5 years ago, a school attendance officer in Gallia County flagged a family with multiple children not enrolled in any recognized home school program. The officer filed a report with the county superintendent, who referred it to Children's Services. The referral was screened out after a phone call to the listed guardian, who stated the children were educated at home under a religious exemption. No home visit was conducted, that family's last known address. The same Poplar Church Road parcel, the main house, 3 years before the Ciders family moved in. The property appears to have a gravitational pull for lives led just outside the reach of the system, and the system's response was to turn the page.
And he tipped her $10 one time. Another house where the Ciders lived was on Garfield Avenue in Gallipolis. Records show the Ciders lived in that home in 2019, possibly for a brief time before moving to the home in Cheshire that we already showed to you. Another family already appears to live here. The Ciders had a third address in Gallipolis. The family lived here in 2008, according to records. This is where they lived when Elizabeth gave birth to the couple's first child. That was obviously a very long time ago, so the property may look different than it did then. But the home is surrounded by other mobile homes. And finally,
when the Ciders family vacated the Cheshire house on Honeysuckle Drive in 2021, a house neighbors described as trash, its attic filled with children's clothing, as if someone was living in it, according to the man who rehabbed it.
This would have been in 2020 or 2021. The neighbor said the family kept to themselves, and while he saw children outside at times, mostly they just stayed in the house. A woman who works nearby told us the house was absolutely trashed by the Ciders. She knows the man who owns it. And we previously told you that the man who rehabbed the house told ABC6 in Columbus that the house was full of urine and pet and human feces. The man also said the attic was full of children's clothing, as if someone was living in it. The woman who works nearby told us that Gary Jr. actually used to come into the store where she works to buy scratch-offs. She said Gary Jr. didn't buy anything else but scratch-off lottery tickets.
They left behind no forwarding address that appeared in any school record, but the property transfer of February 2022 shows that the family trust had already acquired the Poplar Church Road parcel. With the Cinder-Block outbuilding, while still leasing the Cheshire home, the transaction was structured to avoid drawing attention, a quitclaim deed, a nominal dollar, no mortgage recorded. In the world of real estate, it was a ghost. In the world of child welfare, it was a vault. Hard evidence now forces the question. A separate affidavit, filed in support of a search warrant for the Poplar Church Road outbuilding, describes what law enforcement found on August 4. A locked steel cabinet contained immunization records for 3 children whose names did not appear on any school enrollment list, any Medicaid claim, or any prior CPS file. 2 of those names matched birth certificates filed in Gallia County, West Virginia, with the mother's age listed as 15.
Elizabeth married Gary Jr. when she was 15. So she was pregnant right as she turned 15 or while she was maybe around 14 years old. They go to West Virginia to get married. We've heard different stories about her demanding to do this and other things. I mean, either way, her parents had to sign off on this. There's been so much talk about this out that way. We've heard from a lot of people who get married, who had been married or got married at age 15, which just stuns me. What are your thoughts on that?
It's just a different society. Again, I was 21 when my wife and we got married. So that nowadays that almost seems young, but to be 15 years old and actually carrying kids and getting married, it would take a rare individual to me to be able to do that and then grow into normal adulthood. I mean, I'm sure there's some that do, but that's just a subsection of society that still exists. But yeah, to me, a 15-year-old is not prepared to be a mom and a wife.
The third name had no birth certificate on file in any state, only a handwritten note with a date and the words, "Born at home." The children's ages ranged from 8 months to 4 years at the time the records were generated. The dates on the immunization cards suggest they were administered by a mobile clinic that visits rural areas twice a year, a clinic funded by a federal grant. That clinic's records are confidential. But the fact that 3 additional minors existed, 3 human beings who had never been counted, means the number of children tied to this network of properties is not 16. It is at least 19. And those 19 represent only the ones for whom some scrap of paper survived. Nobody asked. Nobody answered. The prosecutor's request for permanent custody, made in open session, now carries a weight it didn't have before. The county is not merely arguing that the parents are unfit. By seeking permanent custody this early, the state is asserting that reunification is contrary to the children's best interest, a legal finding that requires clear and convincing evidence.
The prosecutor in Vinton County, William Archer, he briefed the county commissioners on this case recently, and he said that the case is expanding. So this case, it's not getting smaller. They're apparently finding out more, and he said that the county is seeking permanent custody of those children. So what does that tell you? I mean, if you're seeking permanent custody, that is granted through a dependency action, those people are never getting those kids back.
No. And it sounds like, and again, I had a similar case in Hamilton County. The Crafts, Robin and I forget the dad's name, but we both went to trial on both of them. They were sexually abusing their kids and putting it over the internet. And those kids, Hamilton County got permanent custody of those because there's no way they were ever going to give them back. And in fact, the parents will both die in prison because of the sentences they got. So it's a very unique situation to seek permanent custody because the main goal of Children Protective Services is to reunite the kids with the parents.
That evidence, we now know, includes the outbuilding, the immunization cards, and what the warrant inventory calls journals, recovered from a plastic tote marked winter clothes. The journals are described only as containing statements relevant to the care and supervision of minors, a phrase that could mean anything from a log of punishments to a ledger of hiding places.
Yeah, I do want to be clear with our audience. You know, we don't know the nature of the initial investigation. You brought up this prior sex case that you were involved in. We don't know if there is a sexual abuse component to this. The authorities haven't commented on that. However, you're just speaking from your experience as an expert on these issues. So we're going to wait to see what unfolds.
Yes.
But obviously these children they're being hidden, the AG said. They're being abused by not being sent to school and being kept in squalor and being kept isolated. I mean, that's neglect.
The fact that the outbuilding existed, that it was acquired by an LLC linked to the family, and that no one in county government connected it to an open CPS file is not a failure of procedure. It is a feature of a system designed to see only what it is asked to see. Here is the question no one has yet been able to answer. If the Poplar Church Road outbuilding remained in use, with water and power running, from February 2022 until at least June 30, 2023, and if the thermal imaging confirms habitation, then where are the 3 children documented in that immunization cabinet? They were not among the 16 removed from Omar Street.
You know, it's so interesting to me that out of nowhere, it seems we have this investigation into this family, and they won't tell us what the initial search warrant was for that they went there for, but they said it wasn't related to these 16 children. They were shocked when they went in there, but obviously somebody reported, and we don't know who it is, somebody reported that Gary Jr. was exposing himself at the home address on 4 different occasions in the last week of May. So
Yes.
in my mind, I'm like, well, what took so long? Because that's a pretty, unless there was a lag in reporting it. What do you think could be behind that?
Again, it's a smaller county. It's got a smaller police department. That's a weird charge, but maybe they had bigger things they had to take care of at the time. Or maybe it's a situation where it's my understanding the kids have not been going to school. You know, that's one thing they have to look at. Now you've got the dad exposing themselves, and maybe somebody decided, you know, there's probably more there than we're seeing. So maybe that's why they geared up. They got in BCI, they got the attorney general involved, and probably did a good job on the search warrant. So when they went in there, they could get everything.
They are not in therapeutic foster care. They are not listed in any missing persons database because no one ever reported them missing. The state has not issued a public appeal. The prosecutor's office has not commented.
Wait and see what the investigation reveals. This case is going to go to a grand jury. The Vinton County prosecutor said that they were trying to get it to the grand jury. They only have grand jury every month and a half out there in Vinton County. It's not like a bigger city or a bigger county where they have it every day. That could be an ongoing process, though, because often these grand juries are used to issue subpoenas and investigate cases.
Yes, I dealt with that in the Lucasville prison riot. It was DeSoto County, a lot bigger than Vinton County, but still a lot smaller county. Their grand jury met periodically, and we subpoenaed a grand jury and presented our first group of cases, but we were presenting cases for the next 6 months. So we had a big enough pool that if some of them couldn't make it, we had enough to fill in. I also remember, one lady came to grand jury with a baby she was nursing, and it came time for the grand jury to vote. And I said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but technically your baby can't be in the grand jury." So I had to hold this crying baby outside of the grand jury room while the grand jury's deliberating, because I didn't want to down the road have somebody say, "Hey, you had somebody in the grand jury that wasn't a sworn member." So that's something else you'll deal with in the smaller county.
All we have is a cabinet, a set of cards, and a handwritten note with a date, and the key in the manila envelope. Go to the Gallia County Recorder's public search portal. Enter the parcel number we've cited, 1908842. Pull up the deed image yourself. Look at the date. Then look at the CPS case closure date available in the state's child welfare data dashboard. The space between those two dates is the story. Ask yourself one question in the comments: what reasonable explanation exists for a new property to be purchased, prepared for habitation, and occupied by minors that no agency knew about, while an active case file on the same family was sitting in a cabinet marked resolved?
I would say to you, as we did when this all first started, strike while the iron's hot. We got foster care money. Good. But don't be afraid to ask them for more. This is unprecedented as far as I'm being told. Right. So, and I know we're a poor county. I know resources are tight, but don't be afraid to ask them. They've all made public comments about this case. Tell them to put their money, and they have partly. Right. Tell them to put their money where their mouth is and help us out.
Might be a good time to bumper levy.
If you believe that every hidden room deserves a spotlight, like this video, share it, and subscribe to Crime Files 911. Turn on notifications so you never miss a case that the system hoped you'd forget. The file was closed. The water kept running. Nobody asked. Nobody answered.